What's going on? Why is there a stranger living in this house? I questioned my husband, Drew, who was standing there. Then my husband said something unbelievable.
You and I divorced 2 months ago already.
What? What the hell do you mean?
Oh yeah, I almost forgot to tell you, but I also sold this house.
Excuse me? What on earth is this person talking about? But looking at my husband's triumphant look, it seems that Drew really thinks that there is nothing wrong with what he did. Wow, you know nothing at all, do you? My name is Lisa. I am 35 years old and I work for a company. I have been married to my husband, Drew, for almost 3 years now. We met at a matchmaking party, and my husband aggressively approached me, and from there, we started to go out. We continued to date and go out at a steady pace, and ended up getting married. When I got married, my dad was very happy. This was because I had been living alone with my dad since my mom died when I was 16 years old. My dad had told me that since I had just started work, I should live on my own and enjoy my 20s. But seeing the lonely look on my dad's face when my mom passed away of her illness, I couldn't really leave him all alone. So that's why I remained at home and lived with my dad for some time after I started working. Still, as I entered my 30s and people around me began to not only get married but also have kids, I began to feel bad about ending up without showing my dad being a bride or his grandkids. Therefore, I started stepping out to meet people at parties. My father was very moved when he saw me as a bride.
I wish your mom could have seen you like this.
I almost cried when he said that. After the wedding ceremony, I started my newlywed life with my husband. I was enjoying my married life, thinking that my next goal was to have a child and show my father the face of his grandchild. My husband and I were in love in the beginning of our marriage, and since we both worked, we supported each other while sharing house chores. But after a year of marriage, my husband's attitude gradually changed. I'm home. Oh? You were late coming back home today?
No, I came home on time as usual.
And you haven't made dinner yet? It was the day my husband was in charge of cooking dinner. But my husband suddenly says something surprising.
I'm not going to make any meals anymore.
Excuse me?
I mean, isn't it strange for a man to do house chores anyway?
That's not true. In this day and age, there is even a term called house husbands, and it doesn't matter what gender you are to do any of the house chores.
People are getting too carried away by the media. Usually, women are better at cooking, so it's best for them to cook, right?
No way. I do love your cooking, you know.
Oh, God. You're such a pain in the ass. Well then, all the days that I'm in charge of cooking, I'll either get us a delivery or get frozen meals.
What? That's a bit... It costs a lot of money, and health-wise it's not that good.
Then you cook.
My husband said that and started forcing me to do all the house chores, even on the days he was in charge. He was kind to me when we first got married, but why has he turned out this way? Maybe this was actually who my husband was. I'm not really sure, but I wasn't thinking about getting a divorce yet. I had been able to make my dad happy by getting married to Drew, but I did not want to make him worry again by getting a simple divorce when I had not yet achieved my goal of showing him his grandkids' faces. Besides, I still loved my husband, and if possible, I wanted to get back to a relationship where we could properly care for each other again. So I did all the house chores by myself, even though it was very difficult for me to balance everything out. My husband and I are both full-time employees, and we are in about the same position in terms of earning income and having the same responsibilities. The time we leave the house and the time we return home is not much different. So, of course, we split our living expenses 50-50. Yet, my husband seems to think that he is superior. He seems to assume that the man is absolutely superior back at home. After 2 years of marriage, my husband has become a complete chauvinistic husband. I'm home.
You're late. Hurry up and make dinner.
I've been working late, you know. Can't you at least help me cook a little?
Huh? I'm home being exhausted. Besides, housework is your job as a wife, right? Shut up and get on with it.
Being dismayed and disappointed at my husband on how old-fashioned his ideas were, I thought that if I argued further, it would only make me tired. So I had no choice but to cook. From this time on, I gradually lost hope in my marriage with my husband. I doubt that my husband will ever return to the kind person he was when we were first married. I'll never achieve my goal of showing my dad his grandkids. I decided it was time to prepare for divorce, and I decided to talk to Dad about it.
I see.
I'm really sorry. Dad, you were so happy that I got married.
What are you talking about? I'm not saying that you had to get married or that I had to see my grandchildren. As long as you're happy, Lisa, I'm happy. So, if you can't spend your days smiling in your married life, don't force yourself to stay married.
Dad, thank you. Since Dad said that to me, I decided to prepare for divorce. But then, I received a call from the hospital that Dad had collapsed. I had just come home from work and was preparing dinner. What? My dad? I told them I would be right there and started getting ready to go to the hospital. Then my husband stopped me and said,
Hey, where are you going?
Dad collapsed suddenly, and he got taken to the hospital, so I'm going to the hospital. I wanted to go to the hospital as soon as possible, but my husband says something unbelievable.
What? What about my dinner?
Huh?
I'm starving. You better not go to the hospital and just hurry up and finish cooking my dinner.
I despised my husband for what he had said. My love for him had long since disappeared. I came to really dislike him, or rather, his very existence had become impossible for me to handle. Before I knew it, I was yelling at him. I'm not your mother, you know. Don't be a grown man waiting to be fed like a baby bird. You should at least prepare your own dinner. My husband looked in shock that I said such a thing. I ignored him and left the house, got into the car, and drove to the hospital where my dad was taken. When I arrived at the hospital room, Dad was asleep on the bed. The doctor asked if I was his daughter, and when I said yes, he took me to another room and explained about Dad's condition. He told me that Dad had suffered a stroke while shopping at the supermarket, and that he had been visiting the hospital for several years because he had not been feeling well. I was surprised because I did not know that Dad had been visiting the hospital. The doctor told me that he would be in the hospital for a while and asked me to bring him a change of clothes and, if possible, to visit him frequently to check on him. I immediately agreed and decided to go there every day. But this hospital is quite far from my house. So I decided to stay at my dad's house for a while because it was closer. But the problem was my husband. I could have divorced him at this point, but there are a lot of procedures and things that need to be done if that were to happen, so the timing is not right now. I went back to my house to take necessary things to live at my dad's place for a couple of months, taking advantage of the time when my husband was not at home. I explained the situation to my husband over text message and told him that I would live at Dad's place for a while and support my dad. And then, as expected, my husband said,
Who'll cook meals during that time? What about house chores?
He never said a word about his concern for my dad's condition. I don't even want to talk to him anymore. Thinking this, I replied, I told you the other day, you are not a child, so do it yourself, and muted my husband's text message. Then I went to visit my father every day. I'm sorry. I said I was divorcing Drew, so you got surprised and this happened.
What are you talking about? Don't beat yourself up like that. The truth is, I wasn't feeling very well for a few years now.
Yeah, the doctor told me.
I see. I didn't want to worry you, which is why I didn't tell you. I'm sorry about that.
No, but from now on, you have to be honest with me, okay? You're the only family I have.
Okay.
Then Dad's facial expression became softer. He must have been under a lot of pressure to be a strong parent because he lost his wife first. That's why I tried to never show any weakness. But now I am 35 years old, and I am an adult, working in the society. I want Dad to rely on me at least a little. My dad accepted my feelings and began to ask me for various favors, such as,
I want to eat that snack tomorrow,
and so on. I was happy to be able to do something for him. And Dad was getting better, and the doctor told me that he was going to be able to leave the hospital. So I decided to move back to my dad's house completely and divorce my husband. I went to our home for the first time in about 2 months to discuss about divorce. Then I found a young woman living there who was not a relative of mine. I was so surprised that I froze, and she was also very surprised. Wait a minute, who are you? Well, who are you? The woman in front of me said, I live here. And to that I replied, this is my house. At that moment, my husband came out of the bathroom.
Huh? Why are you here?
My husband looked at me and said that. What's going on? Why is there a stranger living in this house? I questioned my husband, Drew, who was standing there. Then my husband said something unbelievable.
You and I divorced 2 months ago already. She's Rita, and she's my new wife.
What? What the hell do you mean? I didn't file for divorce.
Oh, don't worry. I already did it for both of us.
But wait, what are you talking about? There's no way you can do that on your own.
Shut up. It was submitted with no issues, so there's no problem. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to tell you, but I also sold this house.
Excuse me?
The money from selling the house will be used to cover for compensation. A compensation for the trouble you caused me for being a bad, terrible wife.
What on earth is this person talking about? I didn't really know if he was being serious or not. But looking at my husband's triumphant look, it seems that Drew really thinks that there is nothing wrong with what he did. Wow, you know nothing at all, do you?
About what?
This house is jointly owned by both of us, you know?
Yeah, I know that. That's why half of it is mine, right? You've been gone out of the house for 2 months, so that's as good as giving me the house, right? All the money from selling the house is mine, and you're a stranger now, so get the hell out.
I don't have to tolerate this guy anymore. Fine. I knew no amount of explanation would help here, so I packed up my belongings, ignoring Drew and Rita looking at me with a victorious look on their faces. She's finally leaving, huh? Finally, the big baggage got out of my way.
Let's use the money from selling this house to buy a car or go on an overseas trip.
That sounds great. I want to go to Italy. Both Drew and Rita would say such things like that as I left. But just you wait and see. I didn't just go home to visit Dad at the hospital. I will do everything in my power to revenge them. 2 weeks later, I received a call from Drew.
Oh, hey! What the hell is going on? Why do I have to pay $250,000 in alimony? This is impossible.
My husband was intensely upset. I calmly explained to him, because what you did was fraud and adultery. You deserve to be charged that amount. It's a settlement so that you won't be erased from society.
What? What are you talking about? I never committed adultery. I remarried after you divorced me.
There's no point in playing dumb like that. I had the investigating agency investigate about your affair while I was away from home. I know that you had an affair with that woman while we were married. And the divorce papers you filed on your own in the first place are invalid.
What? No way.
Drew apparently really thought that the divorce papers were valid. But since we have proof of Drew's affair, he understood that he would have to pay alimony. The crime of submitting the divorce papers without permission is also known as a forgery of a private document. In other words, it is a complete crime. If I file a proper notification to the police, you will be a criminal.
Excuse me?
Then you'll be fired from your job and won't even be able to find another job since it'll be in your records.
Oh no.
Well, if you prefer that, I'll cancel the settlement and file the report.
Well, wait a minute. Okay. But even so, isn't $250,000 too much?
That includes all the harassment I received from you, as well as the fees for your affair. So I get $200,000, which is half of the $400,000 you sold the house for, and $50,000 in alimony.
No way! I'm going to be left with $50,000 in debt.
So I can call the police then? But if I do that, I'm sure you'll lose more than $50,000 though.
Oh, I got it. I'll pay you. Just don't do that.
It's settled then. Thus, I officially divorced my husband and got all $400,000 of the money from selling the house. And since my husband said he couldn't pay in one lump sum, he decided to pay the $50,000 in alimony in installments. I told him that if he failed to pay the alimony, I would report the crime to the police, so the payment has been made without delay. Of course, I also requested alimony of $30,000 from Rita. Rita said that she too was charged such alimony. Plus, she didn't get the money from selling the house, and when she found out that my ex-husband was in debt, she immediately dumped him. So, Drew was left completely alone, living even poorer and paying alimony every day. But it was all his own fault, so I don't feel sorry for him. On the other hand, I had a lot of money, and my dad was out of the hospital and living well at home, so although my marriage was difficult, I thought it was a good thing in the end. I am also approaching my late 30s, and it is getting harder and harder to find new people. So, I am thankful that I have some savings. So for now, I'm going to live while working hard and cherishing the time I have with my dad. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. See you in our next video.